So today I'm going to be speaking about maximizing possible revenue from perishable inventory. Now, what I'm going to do is, just to put it into perspective, I'm going to speak about a hotel that I have directly had a relationship with and managed their revenue strategies. And I want to explain to you how the processes that we implemented in this particular hotel could be implemented in your hotel today, and you could achieve the same goals, if not more. And that's this particular hotel here. Now, this hotel is in a location which is far more unpopular than Istanbul, and it does not have all the sights and sounds that Istanbul does have. So if this hotel can achieve it, then obviously you guys can do that also. So just to really paint the picture here, prior to me joining this property, the hotels were increasing their revenues year on year. So they were obviously maximizing. However, 2%, 3% maximum revenue was being achieved year on year. And really that was the threshold. The hotel had been around for about 50 years. And really never really managed to grow substantial amount of revenue. So with the changes that I made to the property, in the first year the revenue grew by 54%, and profitability, as I know it's important, grew by 72% for this particular hotel. Now, as you can see from my beautiful graph here, the occupancy only grew by 0.5%. However, the revenue was a lot more than the occupancy was. So this is what I generally been speaking about today. And as you can see, there's certain areas that I looked at in particular: the change in the business mix, the pricing, the demand, and the value of the hotel. Just before I proceed, we've obviously heard today about experiences, about value, about the uniqueness. You know, all this is absolute true, and it's required when it comes to hotels. This is everything that the customer sees from their side. However, there's other things that would need to support you maximizing your revenues, which comes from the back end, which customers don't see. And that's really where revenue management comes into play. And I'm very pleased to be opening up this summit today to revenue management. So when we talk about perishable inventory, as hoteliers, you guys have more than bedrooms, okay? Some hotels have only bedrooms, some obviously have more. So we have the spa facilities, we have restaurants, we have meeting rooms. Perishable inventory in revenue management is applied to all of these areas. Therefore, it's really important that your revenue managers, or the people who are responsible for driving your revenues, extend their thought process rather than just bedrooms to these different areas. Because with the contribution and knowledge that revenue managers can bring, you can see a substantial growth, and you can generally maximize your revenue in all these particular areas. Now, we have to measure what we do. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen these measures, these KPIs that I have here. The most popular one, obviously, is RevPAR, which will measure your bedrooms for you. However, I just wanted to introduce you to a couple of more KPIs, just so that you know when you are looking to see how good or bad you're doing with regards to your revenue maximization, what KPIs you should ideally be looking at. So when it comes to restaurants, RevPAR, I don't know if anybody's heard of this KPI, but it's revenue per available seat hour, and it's a very, very important KPI within the restaurant industry. Whether it's part of a restaurant in a hotel or a non-hotel, it's one that is used quite widely and is measured very effectively. And then we have RevPAR, revenue per available treatment hour, and there's plenty others with regards to meeting rooms. But these are some KPIs that you need to observe. And like I said, and specifically if I can just talk about RevPAR for a minute, there's so many different areas within a restaurant that you can maximize your revenue from. So, you know, rather than just giving the customer the item off the menu, it's the back thought process that you need to really focus on to understand what's going to be profitable, what's going to really work for that particular customer. So, you know, in restaurant revenue management, there's lots of different areas known as menu engineering, table optimization, average duration. all these are key areas which your revenue management strategy should focus on. Now, I need to stand here for about another hour to speak about restaurant revenue management, but obviously Erhan has been cruel and hasn't given me that time. However, if anybody is interested, then feel free to catch me and I can share some points with you. But like I said, it's about focusing on the total inventory and ensuring that you are maximizing at every opportunity available and measuring it through the key KPIs. Now, again, due to time, I'm going to be focusing mainly on the rooms element because generally for hotels, rooms are the main breadwinner, and a lot of the times, rooms revenue is the key contributor. So when we speak about revenue management, when we ask people, what's revenue management? A lot of people will say, oh, it's pricing, right? A lot of people will automatically just assume it's pricing. But actually, it's so far from the truth, because pricing is only one element of what makes revenue management. Pricing is the visible discipline to the customers. However, there's so much more that goes into having a good revenue management strategy. And today, what I'm going to do is just speak about two of those key areas, one obviously being pricing, just to get a few things clear, because again, back to the hotel that I started with, this was one of the issues that was constantly ignored, and therefore they couldn't maximize on their revenues. So when we spoke about pricing, and when you look at pricing in your hotels on a daily basis, I like to introduce people to this curve here. This is a global pricing process, and this global pricing process is used in many industries. What it ideally does is it combines the knowledge you have of your competitors and it along with the segmentation that you've created. Now, we've heard today about knowing your customer. Well, it's nothing new. You know, back in the 1970s when revenue management actually started and it was introduced into hotels, you guys should have been doing this. You know, customer segmentation is about understanding customer behavior. It's about really knowing what the customer wants and what you can deliver operationally to meet their expectations. So it's something that's been happening for quite some time, and obviously in the world of revenue management, we like to call it customer segmentation, which I'm sure you're aware of. Okay, so what this does is it takes the knowledge and it combines it along with the segmentation, and then you come to the next step, which is your product. Your product and your product positioning within the market. It's very important for you to understand how your product fares within the market you're in. So, you know, doing a SWOT analysis, for example, understanding where you are in comparison to those new hotels opening and those hotels who have been there for many years. So that falls part of the pricing process. Next, obviously, we fall into market strategy. Now, marketing strategy is what your route to market is, whether that be through technology, whether that be indirectly through promotions, through anything else you do to get to that market within your hotel. However, it's really important to understand here that marketing strategy must focus on your perceived customer value. So what do your customers think of your property? How likely are they to book your hotel over your competitor hotel? This all forms part of the pricing strategy, and it's displayed within the marketing strategy you have there. Next is price. Price obviously is key, price positioning, variable pricing, whatever price, how many ever dynamic prices you look to implement, and then obviously cost, and this leads us to profitability. So that's kind of like the process that industries follow when it comes to pricing, okay? Now, there's just this one loop here, this here, competitive offering. This is the one element of the pricing process that can bring you back. So obviously competitors can have an impact on your offering. If they choose to offer something better, or if their reputation is better than yours, then this will have an ultimate impact. But one thing I have to mention here, and obviously with regards to the hotel that I was dealing with, which I showed you, like many of the hotels allow competitors to price their hotel for them, right? So I've been to so many hotels and I've asked them, so what do you have a look at when you set your price? And a lot of hotels have told me some things like this. But predominantly, your hotels are being led by competitors when it comes to price. So it's like the blind leading the blind. What you're saying, in essence, is your competitors are far more superior to you, and they are more sane. They know a lot more than what you do with regards to your own hotel. This is one big area in pricing which has cost hotels a lot of revenue. You should be pricing your hotel according to your own hotel, according to your own business mix, according to your value, and according to what you can truly achieve from that market. No matter how good or bad that competitor might be, but ultimately, if you switch, and what you have to do is very important for me to mention here, is you have to take into consideration the competitor price, but you don't follow. Not only can you create a price war, but also you can be seen as following competitors, and your revenue will never grow. You could be making all the right noise. You could be, having a look at your figures on a month-by-month basis, on a year-by-year basis, seeing that, oh, we've grown in 10% in our occupancy, but our revenues are not growing. Well, start pricing your hotel for your own hotel. Believe it or not, it still happens. And the sooner people come away from that practice, the better you will start to see your revenue figures rise. Now, another point I must mention here with regards to pricing, again, back to the hotel that I was talking about, and like many other hotels around the globe that I've been part of, a lot of hotels choose this price here, this pricing process here. So the best practice, okay? Now, I'm sure there's many hotels here who will follow this pricing practice, where you have your base room, and then you have increments of whatever currency you're charging, 50, 80, 250, whatever it is that you choose to apply on your base room. It's a good practice. It has helped a lot of hotels in achieving a certain amount of revenue. However, you need to stop, okay? You need to stop doing this. Because what you need to do to maximize on your revenues, and that's obviously what we're all in the business to do, you have to really start to price your rooms independently, okay? Again, you saw the revenue figure increase when I started off. This was one area that I made a big change to. So how much of the demand do you actually understand of your particular room types? Pricing your bedrooms based on seasons, based on day of week, based on days to arrival, market segmentation, the list goes on. So independently price your rooms. Don't use fixed increments of certain amounts, because you're going to be undervaluing your room. Just to give you an example, you have the different seasons, right? You all have your contracts, and everybody says, oh, no, it's high season, it's low season, it's mid-season. So why do you use the same pricing process for all of your seasons? It doesn't make any sense. So the best thing to do is to start having a look at your demand by room type, and obviously when you're looking at seasons, really focus, that junior suite, for example, you would normally put an increment of 100. You can go ahead and independently price that room at 250, and you can achieve more. So it's very much common. It's very much basic principles. However, they are very powerful principles that you can leave this room today and go and implement without anything in your hotel. So it's key that you understand dynamic pricing approach. Now, this is a pricing approach that I use a lot of the time, along with many other industry experts use this when it comes to pricing. Now, the hotels that I mentioned to you before, it's the pricing approach that we implemented there, and obviously it made a big difference. So market analysis, we've heard a lot about understanding your value and understanding your positioning. You have to obviously understand here the SWOT analysis of your market. So what is your position? How can your competitors affect your reputation? And how can that make an impact? And then it comes on to market segmentation, knowing your customer, understanding the customer behavior. If you know within your market how your customer behaves, then you can foresee what the competitors are going to try and do to get that business from you. Without knowing the customer behavior, it's very difficult for you to then understand what you can deliver as a hotel to what your customers' needs are. So it's super important that market segmentation is implemented and your guest behavior is known. Then comes your pricing strategy. So pricing strategy predominantly should be based on your business mix. So we have the segments, we have leisure, we have corporate, we have wholesale. Your pricing strategy should be independent to those segments. And once you know what your pricing strategies are, they allow you to identify key areas such as customer sensitivity, again, the booking process, where your customers are coming from, how valuable they are. These are all areas that can be looked at. Then obviously comes data. Now, we've had a few speakers here speaking about data, obviously big data in particular. And I'm a big fan of big data, but I'm a fan of right data. When it comes to revenue management, it's about the right data. So, it's good that we have all this data within our hotels, and there's so many different channels that we can get that data from, but you have to slice and dice. You have to really get down to the nitty-gritty, and I've put a little, some information here. You can see, historical business on the books, pickup, lead time, seasons. This is the data you need to really analyze if you want to be able to price your hotel more accurately and achieve maximum revenue. Obviously, data analysis follows through to demand forecast. Having a demand forecast at least 365 days out or at least 90 days is important in the pricing process. Price positions, price points, not just having one point, having multiple price points, because you will have some customers who are sensitive to that price, but some customers who are not going to be, who would actually pay more than what you're advertising. So coming away from the static pricing approach, having a more dynamic pricing approach is really important, and again, it will allow you to maximize on your revenues. Obviously, you go ahead and set your price. How you set it is entirely up to you, based on your room types, based on length of stay, based on the inventory that you've got remaining, and then it's very important that you monitor. Monitor exactly what? Well, monitor your pickup based on the price that you're offering. Monitor the sensitivity, so monitor how sensitive those customers are to your price. Competitor reaction. If you increase your price, what are the competitors doing? How is that going to have an impact on your business? This is all areas that you need to monitor. And current supply, and then distribution. We have some great channels out there. We have some great technology out there. But as hoteliers and as revenue managers specifically, it's really important for you to understand which channel is going to work for you in your market and which one you can reach the wider audience, which you wouldn't be able to do on your own. Also making sure that the strategies that you've applied, they fall through to those channels, and ensuring that you can really achieve what you need to achieve from that particular channel. So this is a whole pricing approach. Now, segmentation I spoke about before, and pricing. There's one other area in the mix which hoteliers are failing to address, which is causing hoteliers not to be able to achieve maximum revenue, and that's inventory. Now, inventory is perishable. It's key. However, how do we manage inventory? That's really what is the question. I have to just point out here that an inventory, segmentation requests happen in certain time orders. They generally happen based on their yield value. So you might have groups 6 months plus. You might have wholesales 2 months plus. However, you have to understand how much value is that inventory bringing to me, okay? And when you're doing your inventory management, you have to be able to say, right, how many rooms out of my inventory am I going to allocate to each segment? It's very important that you do that, because once you identify how much inventory you're allocating to each segment, then you will know the stop point. You will know when to stop selling to one particular segment at a particular price point. If I just talk about the transient segment, which is the priceable segment, hoteliers don't know when to change their price, right? And a lot of the time it's gut feel, or it's think, yeah, okay, we've sold enough rooms. But how do you know what the value of that room actually is? How do you know, you've sold 145 rooms. How do you know that you should change the price now, or should you wait another 10 rooms? Well, it's through effective inventory management. Now, I don't have enough time to be able to do it, show you the manual way of doing it. However, I must point out here that when you're doing inventory management, it's all in the data that you've got. So you go back, have a look at your price points, have a look at your lead times, understand what your business mix is, and understand how many rooms I should allocate to this particular inventory, to this particular segment. And once you understand that, you will see your revenues maximizing, not a problem at all. You know, whether it be a city where there's plenty of demand or whether it be a city where there's lack of demand, it's very much possible to do. And I showed you the first slide, it's doable. Now, in the first slide that I spoke about the hotel, how did I do it? So how did I manage inventory? Well, I didn't go down the route of technology. Technology is great, and obviously it's good from an automation point of view, but my belief from a revenue management point of view is that you have to get the basic principles implemented initially for you to then be able to be supported by technology. The good old Excel works if you utilize it properly, okay? So your revenue managers, you have to be asking your revenue managers these type of questions, right? Why don't I know about things like this, you know, as hotel owners, as GMs, as whatever? You can do this in Excel. It's pretty easy to do. It's a simple case of taking this information that I'm displaying here and just applying it in the Excel formulas that Excel actually allows you to do. In three steps, you can identify, as you can see here, I can identify what is the probability of my rooms being sold for this particular segment. And here, I can show you how many rooms should I stop at in order for me to increase my price in terms of the next price point. So again, it's doable. If anybody wants to know more, then feel free to catch me. I can go through this in detail, but just to obviously show that that's available in Excel to do. And just to summarize, it's not all about pricing, okay? Your inventory strategy, your customer segmentation, your behavior makes all the difference. Making sure that you have your optimal price, managing your inventory effectively, applying that through to the right technology or distribution platforms will allow you to maximize your revenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Zak.